Meet Rani, am I audible? आई थिंक कल मैंने लिखवाया तो था. नो. Okay. So first of all, write down according to historical diffusionism or particularism, historical diffusionism or particularism. Okay. Culture similarities are best explained through historical contact, borrowing, transmission over time. Okay. Now you can just write down definition for historical particularism. Historical diffusionism is an approach. Historical diffusionism is an approach. Historical diffusionism is an approach that studies how cultural traits spread across societies by reconstructing their historical pathways. Historical diffusionism क्या है? एक ही approach है, right? So it is studying that how this cultural traits spread across societies. And during this process, they reconstruct their historical pathways. तो वो blend होती है, and you can see that यहाँ पे आपको इस बात को prove करने के लिए you people have to prove empirical evidence. You need to provide. So before Franz Boas, none of the earlier diffusionists made sweeping claims. But this approach is telling us empirical evidence, field work, context-specific analysis. So historical particularism is very different. You will see in terms of what? In terms of its approach, because historical diffusionist is arguing that you need to provide empirical evidence. So तीन important point है यहाँ पे. एक, that you have to explain empirical evidence. Okay, we are talking on empirical evidences. ठीक है, पहला तो ये point हो गया. दूसरा, field work. Okay, so we are providing fieldwork and we are specifically interested in context. So context specific analysis. So context specific analysis is there. Now write down, according to Franz Boas, we must not reflect on grand theories to explain culture elements. According to Franz Boas, we must not see only grand theories, grand universal theories. He has introduced the concept of historical particularism. He has introduced the concept of historical particularism, arguing each culture has its unique historical trajectory.
Ma'am, arguing each culture.
Each culture has its unique historical trajectory. Now you need to know why this is very important, because the core strength, write down, the core strength of historical diffusionism lies on its method. The number one is field work, direct observation of cultures. Direct observation of cultures. दूसरा, ethnographic detail. So Franz Boas is now focusing on language, rituals, tools, kinship. So language, rituals, tools, kinship. That is ethnographic detail. Then trait distribution analysis. Trait distribution analysis. Mapping where trait exist. Mapping where traits exist. Tracing their movement over time. Tracing their movement over time. Yes. Written? If it is done, so let me know. Done है? हैव यू रिटन गाइस? थोड़ा सा तो इम्पोर्टेंट है ही, इसको एक और बारी लिखेंगे. Just one important point about Franz Boas. Okay, this is it. I think I've given enough dictation, and everything is written in the notes with respect to historical particularism. So we must not go deeper into it. And now we can move to other part. अगर कोई doubts है तो please do let me know. If you have any doubts in this, do let me know before I move to the next. Now I'm just going to open the PPT to all of you. अब आपने क्लास नोट्स बना लिए हैं. And also PPT. Wait. So we have almost finished this. So this is what Franz Boas, he believed that theorization should be done only after adequate data. ये वाला point जो मैंने अभी आपको लिखा है empirical evidences. Okay, तो आपका adequate data होना चाहिए, has been generated on the phenomena in question. He argued that for the understanding of human history and migration, we need to understand it in the context of the particular culture by emphasizing on fourfold approach to study race, language, culture and history. तो ये एक अप्रोच है हिस्टोरिकल पर्टिकुलरिज्म की. सी जो मैंने आपको क्लास नोट्स लिखवाए हैं वो, उसके बाद सम पॉइंटर्स फ्रॉम योर पीपीटी पीपल हैव टू रीड. सो दिस इज व्हाट केम टू बी नोन एज हिस्टोरिकल पर्टिकुलरिज्म. ओके. So Bose insisted on the importance of detailed studies of individual cultures, marshalling archaeological evidence, the mapping out of the diffusion of cultural traits amongst neighboring people, and the detailed examination of language and custom. तो फ्रांस बोस सिर्फ आर्ग्यू यही कर रहे हैं कि भाई डिफ्यूज तो हुआ है, बट हमको समझना है हाउ द ट्रेड्स हैव डिफ्यूज फ्रॉम वन प्लेस टू अनदर प्लेस. और ही इज आर्ग्यूइंग दैट वी नीड टू प्रोवाइड डेटा, बिकॉज अब तक फ्रांस बोस से पहले जितने भी एवोल्यूशनिस्ट थे उन्होंने कल्चर का अपना जो भी डिबेट दिया, दे फेल टू प्रोवाइड अस एनरिच्ड डेटा. नाउ यू कैन नॉट मेक थ्योरीज ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ स्पेकुलेशंस. That is why they are scientific. No, you need to provide the evidences. So Franz Boas argued that when you are reading cultures, first of all, you need to give importance to detailed studies of individual cultures. इंडिविजुअल कल्चर को स्टडी करो, मैक्रो पर्सपेक्टिव, मैक्रो कल्चर्स के कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ ऑल कल्चर्स को देख के आप मत बात करो, ठीक है। तो दिस इज पार्ट, तो मार्शलिंग आर्कियोलॉजिकल एविडेंस, मैपिंग करो कि ये कल्चरल ट्रेट्स आए कहाँ से, नेबरिंग पीपल्स से आए, किस वे में आए, माइग्रेशन करके आए, डिटेल एग्जामिनेशन करना होता है लैंग्वेज का, कस्टम्स का। अब यहाँ पे ही हमारे पास आया हिस्टोरिकल पर्टिकुलरिज्म, तो हिस्ट्री भी देखेंगे, पर्टिकुलरिटीज भी देखेंगे, तब जाके यू कैन सी वी हैव गॉट वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट। ओके, you will can write down this point but in your own words, not in PPT language. Okay, Bose argued that the attempt to explain human thought in terms of social organization ignored the role of people as thinking, acting beings and led to a relativization of all. You can write down this point. ये important है तो please write down. Underlined है, ये आपके notes में होना चाहिए. So Bose argued that the attempt to explain human thought in terms of social organization ignored the role of people as thinking, acting beings and led to a relativization of all systems of belief, which undermined the claims of cultural evolutionists themselves. पानी रख दो। इसे प्लीज लिखिए जल्दी से। इफ यू आर डन प्लीज गिव मी अ मैसेज दैट यू पीपल हैव रिटन दिस। लिख लिया इसे? ओके, अब जिसका छूट जाएगा वो अब बाद में कर लेना। So he encouraged his students to prove their varied interest, mindful of data, free from prejudices, and distrustful of any existing theory in anthropology. He criticized the speculative and sweeping generalization made by classical evolutionists and German school of diffusionists. Okay, so he believed that culture of a society is product of environment condition, psychological factors and historical connection. बहुत ही important line है. Please write down quickly. अगर क्लास नोट्स में होगा तो ही आप लोग पीपीटी पे फोकस कर पाओगे कि अच्छा ये मैम ने लिखवा भी रखा है और यहाँ से हमको पीपीटी से प्रॉपरली रीड करना है, तो इसको लिख लीजिए या तो आप स्लाइड नंबर लिख लीजिए। वन 133 और 134। और धूप भी लगा देना इसमें। Now, this is again he has argued. He said that you can understand any cultural group if you are ready to give up your ethnocentrism. जो प्री कंसेप्ट नोशंस होते हैं उसको आपको खत्म करना पड़ेगा, तभी आप जो है इसको समझ सकते हो, राइट? यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड दिस that you have to leave the preconceived notions. So that is ethnocentrism. यहाँ रख दोनों. हाँ कहाँ है? आई डोंट नो बेटा, मैं क्लास कर रही हूँ, मुझसे मत पूछो. Okay, so by detailed data from different cultures, individual traits can be singled out as borrowed or invented. Okay, so ये एक point हो गया. Now, this is important. He used the approach of studying history of particular cultures. Hence, he called it historical particularism, and he is known as particularist. In studying cultural history, he found the need and role of diffusion in cultural change. Thus, his line of thinking related to diffusion encouraged his students Whistler and Karol to American School of Diffusion. Okay? So, this is what you will see. Historical particularism claims that each society has its own unique historical development, and we must understood all this with our own specific cultural context, especially its historical process. So that is what we have to do. This is done. अब आपकी थ्योरी में सिमिलर आर्ग्यूमेंट है, ओके, इस बुक में. ओके, क्लार्क डेविड विस्लर. जल्दी जल्दी नाम लिखेंगे इन दोनों का. क्लार्क विस्लर एंड एल्फ्रेड करोबर. ओके, तो दोनों ही इन्फ्लुएंस से, ट्रांसपोज से. क्लार्क विस्लर एंड एल्फ्रेड करोबर. राइट डाउन names. Okay, so they did argue and accepted the relevance of geographical cultural center where these traits were first developed and from which they diffuse outward. Okay, so they were also trying to understand. So यहाँ पे विस्लर ने एक थ्योरी बनाई, that is age area principle. इसके ऊपर 10 मार्कर आ सकता है. If a given trait diffuses outward from a single culture center, it follows that the most widely distributed traits found to exist around such a center must be the oldest traits. The older the cultural trait, the larger is the area of its spread. This formula to determine the origin and spread of culture traits came to known as age area hypothesis. ठीक है, ये है, आप लोग लिख सकते हो इसको, age area hypothesis. This theory led Whistler to formulate his age area principle. If a given trait diffuses outward from a single cultural center, it follows that most widely distributed traits found to exist around such a center must be the oldest traits. The older the culture trait, the larger is the area of its spread. This formula to determine the origin and spread of culture traits came to known as age area hypothesis. Okay. तो क्लार्क डेविड विस्लर एक अमेरिकन एंथ्रोपोलॉजिस्ट है, एथोलॉजिस्ट है, आर्कियोलॉजिस्ट है. ये एक पहले एंथ्रोपोलॉजिस्ट है. इज द फर्स्ट एंथ्रोपोलॉजिस्ट टू perceive the normatic aspects of culture, to define it as learned behavior, and to describe it as a complex of ideas, all character of culture that are today generally accepted. So Whistler was a specialist in North American ethnography. Indians of the plains, he contributed the culture area and age area ideology. Okay, so culture area and age area ideology. Diffusionist viewpoint that is no longer popular in anthropology. So this is what you will see here. So Clark Whistler's main area of research was a Native American culture. लिखेंगे ये Native American culture में he was studying. He was definitely influenced by Franz Prose, okay, and Ruth Benedict. Whistler offered some of the new theories that were quite different from Bose, who was a leading cultural researcher. Okay, so one of Whistler's new concepts was belief in culture diffusion, and culture was biologically innate in humans. ये लिखेंगे. कि इंसानों के अंदर कल्चर इनेट है, पाया जाता है, because they are a social animal. So Whistler also came up with the age area hypothesis, that is the theory that age of cultural traits may be determined by examining the distribution of these traits throughout the larger area. For example, अगर कोई किसी पूरे वर्ल्ड में योगा चल रहा है, तो उसका मतलब योगा का ओरिजिन लेट से इंडिया से हुआ, तो इंडिया काफी पुराना कल्चर है और ये बहुत बड़ा ट्रेट हर जगह मिल रहा है. तो जितना लार्जर एरिया होगा उतना पुराना होगा वो कल्चर ट्रेट. Okay, so this is what they are arguing. So Whistler's influence is still felt in anthropology today, and he is trying to explain and giving proof on cultural theory. Okay, so this is age area hypothesis. UPSC ने इस पे क्वेश्चन भी पूछा हुआ है. So this is your answer. So Whistler's greatest contribution was the age area hypothesis, which both developed from and contributed to the interplay between archaeological and ethnological research. In the days before radiocarbon dating, archaeologists lacked the means to tell the real age of material. तो relative age हम कैसे देखते थे? Stratigraphy यूज करते थे और ethnologists जो थे वो कलेक्ट करते थे डेटा और living culture. But cultures known to have changed through the centuries. Okay, this is diffusion among multiple cultural areas. तो अगर ये यहाँ बहुत ज्यादा है तो ये इज लाइक द कोर कल्चर सेंटर, देन द ट्रेड, एंड दिस इज अ कल्चर मार्जिन. So Whistler's hypothesis was the cultural traits tended to spread from the center to the periphery of any culture area. Therefore, those traits found at the periphery were older, okay, and those found at the center were newer. So when put to the test, the hypothesis seemed to work. So this is that's what they are saying. It gave a dynamic aspect to culture area research. Now I will explain it more on the culture area research. ये diagram आप बना सकते हो. Age area hypothesis. I am giving you content on this. Just a 150 words, not more than that. Small content if you'll have, okay, it will be not problematic. अदरवाइज आपके पास कंटेंट बहुत है, बुक्स भी है, क्लास में भी मैं लिखवा रही हूँ, तो कॉन्सेप्चुअल क्लैरिटी क्लास में आनी चाहिए. वो थोड़ा उसके लिए मैं सिर्फ शॉर्ट नोट्स बना रही हूँ, दैट ड्यूरिंग एग्जाम्स टाइम आप सिर्फ क्लास नोटबुक लेके जाओगे, आपको सब याद रह जाएगा. Okay, please write down the age area hypothesis. The age area hypothesis of Clark Whistler. The age area hypothesis of Clark Whistler is a classic diffusionist idea in anthropology. Okay, etc. Now write down core idea of age area hypothesis is it is a very simple but a powerful principle. Okay, you will see कि बड़ा simple explanation है but ये काम करता है. The wider the geographical distribution, the wider the geographical distribution of a cultural trait, of a cultural trait, the older it is. The older it is. जितना बड़ा geographical distribution होगा, okay, you will see that. So in other words, pehla point. If a cultural trait tool, belief, custom, bracket में, if a cultural trait is found over a large area, it likely originated earlier. And had more time spread. And had more time to spread. If a cultural trait is found over a large area, comma, it likely originated earlier and had more time to spread. If a trait is localized, comma, it is probably more recent. If a cultural trait, bracket में tool, belief, custom, is found over a large area, comma, it likely originated earlier and had more time to spread. If a trait is localized, comma, it is probably more recent. Thank you, beta. Next, लिखो, if a trait is localized, comma, it is probably more recent. अब सुनो, फॉर एग्जाम्पल इलिस्ट्रेशन में बता रही हूँ, उसको लिख लो. यू जस्ट हैव टू इमेजिन. ये डायग्राम वायग्राम बना लेना. इमेजिन दिस इज पर्टिकुलर टाइप ऑफ पोट्री, दैट यू आर फाइंडिंग अक्रॉस अफ्रीका कॉन्टिनेंट. तुम्हें इंडिया में भी दिख रहा है, राइट? तुम्हें यूरोप में भी दिख रहा है, तीनों कॉन्टिनेंट में तुमको दिख रहा है एक पर्टिकुलर टाइप ऑफ पोट्री. Another style is found in small tribal region. तो वही सिमिलरली आपको दिख रही है स्मॉल ट्राइबल रीजन में, तो लाइकली इट इज न्यू ईयर. अगर कोई एक तरीके की टाइप ऑफ पोट्री सारे ही जगह मिल रहा है, एशिया में भी, यूरोप में भी, अफ्रीका में भी, तो इसका मतलब बड़ा ओल्ड है. अब दूसरे स्टाइल की पोट्री मिल रही है किसी टाइप्स में, तो ये नया है. जैसे योगा आपको अभी पूरी दुनिया में मिल रहा है, तो इसका मतलब ये पुराना है. So space is the area. Okay, you can see. Okay, please write down. For instance, a particular type of pottery is found across Asia, Europe and Africa. Likely very old. इसका मतलब ये पुरानी है. Okay, so another style is found only in a small tribal region. Likely newer. Simple formula है. The space, that is area, is used as a proxy for time, that is age. So he has given a quasi-scientific method. Okay? Is this clear? ऐसा लगता है कि काफी सही है, बट काफी मेसी है इसका क्रिटिसिज्म में आप देखोगे. डिफ्यूजन इज नॉट यूनिफॉर्म. कल्चरल ट्रेड्स कैन स्प्रेड रैपिडली. इंडिपेंडेंट इन्वेंशन इग्नोर. पावर रिलेशन नहीं है. बट यू कैन जस्ट से व्हाट इज द रेलेवेंस ऑफ विस्लर culture age area hypothesis. It shifted focus from evolution to diffusion. एक कल्चर डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन को थोड़ा सिस्टमैटिकली हमने पढ़ा, फिर इसमें काफी काफी और आप कह सकते हो हेल्प रहा टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस. अच्छा गाइस, हो सकता है नेक्स्ट वीक में यू नो आई एम ऑन लीव एंड नाउ आई एम गोइंग टू गिव लॉट ऑफ टाइम फॉर ऑल ऑफ यू. जरा आप लोग अपनी नोट मेकिंग करते जाओ. जस्ट अ मोमेंट.